Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Human ideals are more important than dehumanized culturalism. I've made an observation, I wanted to talk about it. Give the viewers a sense of where I'm envisioning the world going behind my eyes. And so I would like to begin by saying that see, the sentence human ideals are more important than dehumanized culturalism. It's kind of like when you understand the chessboard. When you understand the pieces on the chessboard, their ability to move, then strategies can be fathomed. In wondering about the chessboard of human experience, we have to look at what this human being has done and what it has drawn itself and pulled itself towards. Culture is very fascinating, and many people feel that when you look at the human existence, its journey, it was a sort of silent one. We were a silent existential creature, not even conscious of the sounds we make, not even able to remember ourselves. As an existential entity, we went through time through our instincts. And instincts is another way of saying the nature's mind within the body, you know. So what I'm trying to say is this creature started interacting with its environment, and it started habitualizing into certain behaviors. The earliest cultures were the cultures of, I would say, the necessity for existential survival. That means you can say a cultural thing creatures back in the day did was hunt for food. They would fight. Do you know? They would scratch their backs. Do you know? They would, make growling noises or whatever. I personally believe that our ancestors, this isn't mentioned in the history books, but I feel our ancestors used to make a noise, right? The way we competed in the concrete jungle wasn't just by our advanced intellect and, let's say, the development of the neocortex. It was as if I feel our ancestors made some noise, okay? Made some noise that we've forgotten how to get rid of predators and whatnot. What I've realized in animal psychology when it comes to strategy is that animals try to make themselves bigger. In some sense, the lion is the king of the jungle, not just because of its size, but also because of the sound it generates. So anyways, what I'm trying to tell the viewers is that our ancestors already had certain behaviors they were in. okay, through identity, through the development, through the self-awareness of identity, through the self-awareness of identity of others, and then even another level of identity was developed where we gave land identity. You know, 4 walls and a ceiling became our home. Do you see? It's as if mankind has been given personified value to many things. I think the viewers will be fascinated if you take a moment and ask yourself how much of your life is subjective and how much of your day-to-day life is objective. You will be fascinated that I think for average maybe it's around like 70% of the human experience throughout the day is subjectively amplified. It's subjectively fulfilled. You know what that means? That means we are living, literally, we are living as fictional beings, right? And we're interacting with the outer realms under the assumption that what we see is the thing that's there, but what we see is what we see. You know this picture I've chosen? It's from this anime called Edge Runners on Netflix. It's a very beautiful story. For me, you know, my ancestors hunted buffalo. I'm kind of like a story hunter. Do you know what that means? That means I am fascinated by stories that have never been heard before, and you know, stories that have been even lost, you know. If somebody gave me a couple $1,000,000 to just, you know, discover the mysteries of ancient texts, I would totally do that. But anyways, there isn't much mystery. Ultimately, it comes down to the human experience. You are a conscious creature. There's many different ways you have been conditioned on this earth to value reality. At some point, you got to understand, okay, what about your own search? What about your own eyes? If you're a younger person listening to me, okay, the thing about the youth, and I would say about, in some sense, getting older, is that it's a game of world changing. Right, so children must have an understanding that there are many worlds out there. There are many. How's it going? There are many realities out there, and the nature of the human mind is one that I have noticed. It fears until it finds a solution. Right now, to be a human being is intense, guys. I mean, just take it in. Right, we're existing on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Everybody's named everything. Do you know? And we're acting like we think one way of living is better. Really, the issue with the human species is style conflict. You know, we are all like, I think if extraterrestrials see human species and they see us like fighting with each other, they'll be like, yo, this species is not high IQ enough to realize they look the same. In the middle of nowhere, we look like each other. Okay, and that's like literally the precursor to the idea of the family, right? We are the human family. Our species must teach other species how great a species can be. Do you know? So this show, this anime show where you're seeing this character is called Lucy, and the show is set in the future. It's by some genius writer's imagination. And what happens is, it's like in a world that has been with a technological makeover, okay? Even in the most dehumanized states, if we forget our humanity, it's as if we lost our ticket to the most important concert. The reason I'm giving this talk, because people right now may not care. People right now are just trying to buy the next new phone. You know, they don't realize there will come a day where you're going to experience certain behaviors of your own system mechanically, technologically. You know, I thought about it. It's kind of like if whoever you are, just if you assume 8 billion human beings are subconsciously building a beehive. Okay, we don't even know it. Even the good, evil people on the planet, you know, people with different ideological systems. So let's say subconsciously the species is building something. And you know what it is? It's trying to build itself. The greatest programmers will tell you, that the greatest programming efforts are to copy nature. Mankind is so blessed. We are so blessed that this world is not a freaking photograph. It's a film, meaning unknown variables are changing how the known variables have meaning. I think about really what's going on this planet. And let me tell you the important thing I gotta say in this episode about the difference between humanism and culture. Humanism has to do with how incredible it is that we have access to live as a simple human being. In anything that a person needs to learn, okay, if you don't understand the simpler principles, you're not understanding the earliest pieces you need to use to build up complexity. When somebody sees something, when I was a kid, let me share this with the viewers. When I was a kid, right, stuff would happen that I wouldn't understand. Okay, let's say I was I don't know, 7 years old, and I would see adults talking or whatnot. I knew there was something going on, but I knew that it was not a reality I was interested in. Okay, the thing about this world is that as you live in it dimensions open up. And even Socrates says this: the only true wisdom and knowledge is to know that you know nothing. Why? Because the more you know, the bigger the world has become, and the bigger the problems have become. The more the problems expand based on the world. Think of it this way. When I write science fiction, I create worlds from scratch. Okay, and so sometimes in order for it to continue, I have to create an addition to the world. I have to create something, right? The thing about being a writer, anybody who's a novelist and writer, first of all, I have this saying where I say all my friends are writers, So everybody I meet, who I become friends with in this lifetime, you gotta at some point become a writer or already be a writer, or you gotta write something, Because to me, there's something very significant about writing in the sense of preserving human nature. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that when we think of the human being, okay, it's this creature on a rock in the middle of nowhere. We can expect physical movements from it, but now we've reached a point where we're expecting mental movements from the human beings. Human beings have reached a certain level of intelligence, which is kind of cool compared to the past, but at the same time, it opens up new dangers. Human beings are not just simple human beings. Our bodies have become the tip of the iceberg the more there has been a ability for biological existence to cultivate experience. And you know what this means, dear beings? This means that every human being you see out in society is acting. Everyone is acting, and it's a necessary act. It's the white lie. It's the lie we have to tell ourselves. You know why? You know why history was created? You know why knowledge was created? Because the world was too bizarre. Because it was too meaningless. Because for how long can attention stare at the void and then wonder what to do? Ultimately, you are the mover of yourself. You see, you are the mover of your reality. This took me a while to understand, especially if you're raised in a religious reality. You think everything is God's will, right? But let me tell you something incredible. In religious books, monotheistic religious books, there's a sentence that says God has given you a brain, has given you a mind to use, right? And it's as if God was so certain that he had created the greatest creature, right? That the fact that when man doubts on earth God's will from a religious perspective, it's like doubting God's creation. All those religious people you see in Islam, right? I shouldn't say Islam, but I would say in monotheistic religions, nowhere God said you have to go clone everybody in the world in the same ideological system. The intelligence of this universe and God, the most pleasant archetype I have found, is that of a gardener. Okay? What that means is the intention of this realm is multiple flowers in the same garden, existentially. Mankind is seeking freedom, but he doesn't know the consequence of his freedom. If right now you gave the average human being complete multidimensional authorization in all its realms, it would stop being a human being. In Farsi, there's a term for this. We call it bijambe. Okay, it's a term for sports. In English, it would be equivalent to a sore loser. Okay, so most human beings are sore losers in the sense that if you give them an ability level beyond the class that soul has trained in, right, that soul might not know what to do, and then most likely would get possessed by higher dimensional beings. When I say possessed by higher dimensional beings, possession is the idea that anytime you are not moving you, something else is. And there's nothing to fear, right? For example, when it comes to the concept of a demon possessing, we're like, what the fuck, get it out of here. Do you know what? When we think about the idea of the whole world being in the control of a divine creator, it's not that different. You see, human beings, we are a type of being in a type of universe where our universe is a disciple. Do you understand what that means? That means in this dimension, especially, I mean, for women, it's different. Do you know? You know, sometimes I feel that, you know, there's this religious saying, right, in Iran I heard it, where they say women are the mothers of mankind, okay? And so, this is why they say I think women are smarter, because one of the species, right, the species had to adjust to its design. That means our ancestors were so smart, were such good managers, that they were like, okay, you know, you have an overload, you have testosterone, go fight a buffalo. I'm going to take care of the kids and make sure the kids don't get poisoned, right? And people don't realize men are living for women and women are living for men. It's just nature. Do you understand? We are indirectly living. I am literally indirectly living for all the women that will be born. Do you understand? And if I have a daughter, that daughter will be living for all of mankind. Why? Because we are humans. Do you understand? There is something beyond the stories we tell ourselves. Do you know? It's as if looking at every being you know and being for a moment, it's like you have not met me. You have met what I thought I was. Do you see more and more people are going to activate their collective lives? I've activated mine since 2000. I think it happened since 2000. I don't know, like 11 or something. And what this means is that they are denying you of a feeling that you as a natural human being should have. And when I say they, there is no enemy aside from human ignorance. That's the only enemy. People don't realize the difference sometimes between an evil and good action is patience. Impatience has made too many members of our species go astray. You know, guys, it's like when I was a kid, it was objects I wanted, you know? But now it's just a state. It's just an intensity. I just want to feel the momentum of the advanced humanity before my eyes close, as if it's okay, the ball's rolling. Right? If the whole point of this lifetime, I think for me, is to just get the ball rolling, you know? And then there will come a day where the songs of the advanced civilization will be heard everywhere. There was a time where I was like, universe, why are you making me go into domains of communication this early as a being? Okay, like if I was giving these Mr.Within talks after this lifetime, like after my physical life, right, after this layer of the onion was complete, right, it's like after this physical lifetime, I could totally understand being a creature of communication. But as a temporary being, right, for a long time I wondered why. Right? Why should I? What is the intent? Like, what's the point? Eventually, an advanced civilization comes. Let's say, like, I stop existing. Right? It's like eventually there will be people who will notice the advanced civilization. Right? But then I realized maybe there will be nobody who can keep the within idea attached to the present. Do you know what I'm saying? There is a wisdom. What I noticed in 2004, okay, so let me tell the viewers, I have like 11,000 subscribers, okay? So let me tell you how these subscribers came about, right? So when I started this channel, there was no Mr. Within, there was nothing really. I was this guy who had come across Alan Watt and Terence McKenna videos, and I don't know what it was about Alan Watts, was that it was like when I heard him speak, it's like I had never felt anybody talk to my soul like that. Do you know? And so what I do, this is in 2011, 12, I think. Oh, sorry, not 2011, 2014. And what I do is I start for some reason I had a habit of uploading music before like I got into YouTube as a podcaster, right? So for some reason I was like, yo, I'm gonna upload all of Alan Watts' videos online. I just liked his lecture so much I did that. Now little did I know, the moment I did that, all the other Alan Watt videos on YouTube went away for some reason. Okay? And for some years, my channel had the only Alan Watt videos. Now, like Alan Watts has an official channel, so I had to get rid of those videos. Right? But I think I introduced maybe like millions of people to Alan Watts. You know, Alan Watts was like, all right, man, here, you know, I'll introduce some of my audience to you, you know. But anyways, that's how the channel grew. But my determination from the beginning of the 10,000 talks was there, you know. And over time, I realized that these 10,000 talks I was giving was my pattern, my solar pattern as a being, to explore my reality. That means if somebody had put me, for example, in a universe where creatures didn't have mouths and ears, they were just creatures of physical movement and sight, right? In that universe, I would probably try to do the most advanced physical movements. The idea is we want to get a sense of the world you're in. Do you know, I learned this from, you know, believe it or not, sparrows. When I give these Mr. Within talks, in 2014, a lot of them were outdoors. And I was outdoor, and I remember I would see sparrows land on branches near me, and I would just watch them. And the sparrow's head moves so fast. Birds are like the most advanced surveillance cameras can be built based on the way birds' necks move. I'm telling you. Nature is the genius. We are just the relayers. You know, there was a time where I'm like, what is being a being? Like, no joke, I asked that from myself. I'm like, what does it mean? Okay, so you're saying you're a human being. What does that mean to be? And I realized it means energy is here. And this is something I have done. There has been moments in this life where I have prayed to the ultimate. I consider an inconceivable truth to this dimension. And I have prayed to the ultimate, and I have commanded all the energy I have lost in this lifetime, unnecessarily or without my knowing, to return to me. Do you know, I've had moments like this. You know, I've had moments where, like, this might sound strange, but you know, there in esoteric concepts, there was this idea of initiation, and that is so misunderstood. That is so misunderstood nowadays. Because the idea of initiation is the idea that you begin realizing that just like a collective being has been looking through your eyes, you can also look through the eyes of a collective being. This collective being is not an entity. Be careful here, dear viewers. Anybody who's gone towards esotericism. In the Bhagavad Gita, and even in monotheistic religions, it's kind of like they come to the same conclusion. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, if you choose to have an intermediary, that means a demigod, an indirect approach to truth where you're having it through a demigod, like let's say you worship Thor, okay? So in the Bhagavad Gita, it says those people who worship Thor, after this lifetime, that deity archetype will be responsible for their will. But those people who worship the direct source of this reality, the direct presence of truth, their will does not get bypassed by another deity. So what it means is, it's kind of like polytheistics A polytheistic, any approach, any being. It doesn't matter if you think it's Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate god archetype. But let me say, if you think it's like Rama, or if you think it's like Batman, or if you think it's like, Thanos in your inner realm, what? It's like my spirit animal is Thanos. No, I'm joking. You see, dear viewers, what I'm trying to say is that it's a workstation, it's a workroom. This dimension's like a cubicle. In this dimension, there's three things are just constant. You can study them. You've probably been studying these your whole life. But it's about the idea of things start, things are maintained, and things are destroyed. The concept of archetype of creation is called Brahman. The archetype of maintenance is called Vishnu. And the archetype, the maintainer, Vishnu. And then the archetype of destruction is Shiva. These are in some sense humanized relationships with qualities of reality. So this girl in the picture I've chosen here, this girl has it's like this anime Edge Runners, right? Cyberpunk 2077 Edge Runners it has gone into the legends of one of the most beautiful modern love stories. And you know what it is? It's exactly like the depiction of this title, what I'm telling you, because in it you begin to see, in a very effed up kind of technology-ridden reality, technology-infused reality, it's as if love is what keeps us human. Love is like a power given to the human species, right? And it's a power that if we choose to care for one another, we get to see each other's karma. But if there were two people and they just wanted person A and person B, they just want to kill each other, maybe they both die and they don't get to see each other's karma. I do understand that some people say karma's good, karma's bad, or like let's say don't go in a car with a drunk driver because then everybody's lost in that person's karma. Sure, but the idea is that you, in this world, dear being, just breathe. And for a moment, feel why you are here. Because I did this, and I was scared because I felt there was no answer. And in my hopeless anguish, I even wrote this thing called The Lament of Amin Jaber Ansari, right? Where I felt like there was something hopeless, right? But then in like this kind of like, imagine falling to this curb of your mind, and in the darkness of it wondering like, okay, what else can lift me up right now? And then, like a glowing star, like a divine presence entering the room, the idea of the advanced civilization. Oof. If I was to say, as a being, as a mental being, the two great blessings I've had is that I've been introduced to the concept of God, and I've been introduced to the concept of advanced civilization, and it wasn't even by choice. Do you understand? These ideas, I was like, okay, the world wants me to think about these my whole life, right? Because some people think their memories are memories. No, your memories are incomplete research projects. That means I remember things I would see as a kid, and still they would remain as a mystery in my mind. And I would go on trying to pretty much accumulate, just like a bee goes to different like flowers and absorbs nectar and brings it back to the beehive. I honestly feel we're all transcendental beings, and we come to this earth plane when we wake up in the morning, and we go and we extract the nectar of direct experience from our cosmos. And then we go back to sleep, and it's as if we return to the beehive, poetically, the hidden beehive of mankind. And so human ideals are important, guys, because it's what keeps you stable. In my inner realms, I did something where I don't know how many people naturally do this. But in my inner realms, I realized, okay, if I think I'm just like, okay, the person I am right now, I'm sitting in like my car using Starbucks Wi-Fi to give this talk. Feel free to join, guys. Join the channel membership. But anyways, this is what I'm trying to tell viewers. Different beings have different capabilities, and we have to start treating the mental arts, the arts of the mind, the art forms of the mind, as a sort of martial arts. Okay? And Mr. Within, I am kind of like one of those guys who set up his own dojo. Okay? For me, it's like you're not a meditator, you're an advanced communicator in the Mr. Within universe. You know what I realized, guys? This is what's happening on this earth. Pretty much the sharpest beings get to see what the main event is, and then they run towards it. And people who think money is the main event, I remember I saw this video from this, like, the guy was evidently some sort of like ex-Russian mobster or something, and he was giving this like life advice to this kid in this video, and it was so weird the way he was giving it. He said he looked at the kid and he's like, don't only go after money or you'll be a prostitute. And then he spat. Right? But he was saying that don't just seek objective things. You are a creature of multiple dimensions here, dear viewer. That means you deserve a life that is multidimensionally fulfilling. Now, the cool thing is the species is in the middle of its research project. We're living at one of the most historic moments ever, where we don't know what consciousness is and what the mind is, and yet everybody's acting like they have minds. Everybody's acting like, yo, look at my mind. Look at the style of my mind. Do you see? We're actors who don't really know why we're acting. Do you understand? This is the nature of instincts. This is the animalism in us. Sometimes when I sleep, I give these talks about metaphysics, and then I go sleep and I'm like, yo, as much as I think I'm a soul, I'm sleeping like an animal right now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so this is the thing. The human plane is a place where beings from different parts of the universal sector come to train. They come to train and get a taste of what existing is like. Now, some beings, it's like upper management and lower management. Lower management, the like Superman, physical heroes in the outer realms. Upper management, upper divine management, okay? Has to do with being the presence of your universe, not just trying to be a personality that fits into it. There's a difference. And you know what it is, dear viewers? This is what Mr. Within will ask you. Can you trust who you are when you're being no one? And if the answer is yes, then, dear listener, you have worn the mystic's garb before. Because mysticism means an unknown being will fearlessly explore this unknown world to figure out, to strategize. Humanity is living for the greatest strategy. We are all living for strategies, right? And what we need to see is human beings that have never existed before. I was like, wait a minute. I remember I saw the X-Men movie. And I was like, yo, I wish, I had changed my high school. I mean, why I bonded with the X-Men movie? Because I was so shy in high school, I felt invisible. I felt I had that power. I'm like, yo, am I invisible right now? And then I just, bang into a wall. Ow. I realized, wait a minute, okay? There's a school fictional school for people with different abilities, and I was like, wait, superhuman abilities, and I was like, if you zoom in on everybody's DNA, we're all like the mutants, right? We're all different, right? Our DNA is different compared to each other, and that means we have a different ability. So whether we like it or not, we are all in a micro X-Men situation when it comes to DNA. You know, there was a time where I was like, yo, why should people listen to me give these talks? And I was like, okay, because somebody like me has never existed before. I'm even curious to hear my own talks and see who this guy is. You know? It's an expression of being. And advanced humanity is upon us. The advanced communicators will feel it. The best metaphor I've heard of I would say, for the advanced civilization, it's the idea of how Rabindranath Tagore says, faith is the bird that feels the dawn when it's still night or something. So what it is it's this metaphor of a bird flying in the darkest hour of night and being hopeless, not being hopeless, but just being like, I gotta keep going in this void. And so suddenly it discovers the world. Suddenly dawn comes. Suddenly, even though it's dark, it feels the warmth of the sunbeams, right? The sunbeams, just like the prophets of religions, right? In the darkest hours of history, poetically, the prophets were like how the sunbeams came, and the message of their teachings was the sun. So to be honest, when I think of religion, God is the sun, and all these prophets are the rays. To be honest, the archangels are the rays, but the rays that come into contact, right? There was this poet named Hafiz 700 years ago. He said, truth is like all the shadows that light casts in the world. He was saying there's as many truths as there are shadows, right? But there is only one ultimate truth, where the shadows are arising from. That means if you're someone who you have done something wrong, or something messed up has happened, or whatever has happened in your life, you just have to at some point realize you are allowed to have a dialogue with karma, with the lords of karma, you know. And what that means is you're allowed to acknowledge this world as alive, the world, because you are being alive. You see, it's just that's the nature of your mind, whether you like it or not. Because you're a living being, you're experiencing the unliving as living. This is why a child can take a teddy bear and the teddy bear animates and becomes its best friends. What that means is when we are young, we can imbue our own soul into stuff, and that stuff becomes real. And when we are communicating with others, at first we are you know what it is? We think the child is thinking or imagining. No. It's kind of like the soul is like this unknown energy, and it puts its energy in something else and animates it. And this took me a long time to realize. That means when I'm around others, I try not to have any intentions. Not try, but I try not to have intentions, because the intention of the mind can manifest. That means even if you're thinking something and you think like others can't see the thought, the energy of it's having geometrical expression. Do you know, when I look at people, it's strange. Of course I see their outer realm appearance and whatnot, but the way their eyes move tells me how fast their inner realms are. Okay? I'm a person who, when I go to a new environment, I literally scan everywhere. Do you know? I spoke to someone who was, I think the guy was a soldier, or he had some experience in the military, and he was saying like that was one of the first things he had learned. To scan and in some sense be informed of the space and the possibilities in the space, and then move. You know? This is something that children need to learn. We got to understand the dangers of the modern world is that this is the idea. Human beings are shifting from being rational beings, with us honoring their rationalism, for humankind to be sensitive to people's emotionalism. That means it's as if a rational thought is being treated in the same way as an emotional reaction. Okay, and it's this idea that we are treating human civilization like an infant, and societies are like, yo, what toy should I give this child for it to stop crying? Instead, to me, an advanced civilization would be like, how dare you perceive inefficiency in yourself when you don't know how advanced you are. The advanced civilization is going to convince the human species that its purpose is to be advanced. Why else is the idea here? It's as if you can have as many people try to argue against the validity of an idea, but as long as the idea exists, why is it in man's mind? Why? Is there something important to live for? And imagine, like, I'm waiting to see more universal beings get offended on Earth. I'm waiting to see, in some sense, people be like, okay, how dare my species? Like, who has dared attack my species? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you get that vibe of like this hidden camaraderie, and people are going to be like, yo, you shouldn't do this, you're imagining a unity of humanity. And I'll be like, why else do we look alike? It's like taking the clues. Even the fools can tell that we look alike, because that's our common denominator of communication, right? We're in the same game, we're playing the same game. Do you understand? We're comrades in a three-dimensional elemental, instead of pixels, periodic table game. Okay? And while we're in this game, the human being is a multidimensional being, because everybody has an inner life. Like, you think when I'm giving this talk, I just think I'm a physical being? Hell no. Right? Behind my eyes, there's like films going on. Right? And people are like, yo, imagination's not real. I'm like, oh really? Why is it there? Like, it's 3/4 not real. Like, it's just 1/4 unreal. 3/4 imagination is as real as anything else in reality. Do you know? Just apply the Aristotelian causes. It just doesn't have substance. That means I can imagine myself. I can imagine a Ferrari in my mind, right? It doesn't mean I can go like drive that Ferrari, but it means that I can see it though, and that's the point. Consciousness. Even though we think we're a materialistic entity, we can never be, because it is receiving input from dreams, from daydreams, from imagination. Do you know what that means? That means you think you're a physical being, but when you have a dream and your body's asleep in the bed and your mind creates a body for you and you experience it in the dream and you wake up, you remember that dream. What does that mean? You remember non-physical experiences. What does this mean? This means we have hidden humanity from its own greatness. We are a multidimensional lion. Yet we were raised as sheep. And so it's not that we can roar at our ancestors. It's one of those things where this is my attitude. I was like, like, I remember reading history, and just when I realized 85 million people had died in World War I and World War II, you know what it mean? You know what it felt like? It felt like literally somebody turning on the news and saying 85 million people have vanished. Do you know? It was like heart pausing. Do you know? Soul pausing. Do you know? You wonder what you are as a being when you see when you read it. Like, I'm telling you, in the there should come like in the future they're gonna give history books with a box of tissues to children. Do you know? I mean, it's like that now, not in the future. Right? It's like that now. In the future, hopefully, it'll be better. But anyways, what I'm trying to tell the viewers is that. Has anyone ever told you to wonder about your advanced self before you die? And if anyone hasn't, then they just have. There's something more. I mean, I'm not someone who is like, you ask me like Mr.Within, I'm like, yo, everybody to the forest. We got to be hippies till the end of time. No. I had to come to terms with what kind of a world I felt had to be here, and then I realized, who the hell am I? And the only way I can talk about certain ideas that may have come across the viewers as very big ideas is simply because I have been humble. How can I tell you? I have been the small one in bigger rooms. I'll give you an example. Imagine the greatest soccer players in the world are having a gathering, and imagine, you know, like this, you are the friend to one of the sons of one of these soccer players. And when you're a kid, you know, you're like, you know, you're invited there too because of your best friend, you know. So it would be as if you're around the presence of those who demonstrate a capability beyond that dimension. It would be like if I'm a square, if we're all squares, it was like I felt as a square I got to witness cubes. And in their presence, the expectation of the old world, it's so mighty. Do you know? That means I have a feeling that, you know, if those people who are dead now were alive and would hear these Mr.Within talks, they would feel as if I was the momentum behind these talks was with them back then. Let me tell you why. Because there has never been an Amin. There has never been a Mr.Within. There has never been a person. It has been a world here from the beginning, giggling to realize itself. Mr.Within's blessing and Mr.Within's pretty much vision, this force, is that it is now time for a civilization to rise. It is now time to attempt to build a paradise on earth. And this means, if you're religious, this is the union point, uniting point. If you're religious, the advanced civilization means let us see how great God's creation truly is. You know? And then when it comes to the secular, let us play the greatest game in the void so we can unlock the greatest reward. I have this view that if in every moment, it could be a simple moment, right? You give your all, like you go all out, the karma of the moment has to respond, right? Like karma means you do something, feedback is received, okay? So when you get a sense of your karma, you get a sense of what kind of being you have been and what kind of being you're being. I'll give you an example. I have to be very careful in this life. Not like that. I have a playful approach, of course, but I have to be very cautious that in this life, right, I renounce everything I am before I exit. And people are going to be like, why? Because I'll be like, I've reached the final chapter of existential manifestation as a being. What this means when a collective being remembers itself, individual beings just become sectors. I don't know how to say it. It's like this is the responsibility level on Earth, to be a biological entity. In other spaces of being, the responsibility level has to do with keeping the world. Right now, we are inside a world that we don't have to imagine for it to be there. There are states where you have to build literally the world from scratch, which means that's a level of fearlessness of soul which maybe some beings have, which the idea is that you are so fearless that it doesn't matter what condition of worldhood is present, right? The presence, it's, you know what it is? It's kind of like, it's like a puzzle, and those people who solve it suddenly feel they could have always solved the puzzle. And that knowing has an intelligence in it, which it moves you. I don't know how else to say it. There is something else here. Terence McKenna said there's another tenant in the room. You want to call it by names, you want to call the divine names, you can. You want to behave like, have ritualistic, I don't know, weird behaviors with the divine, you can, right? But this is what it means ultimately. You are the divinity in the room. You are the proof that something in the middle of nowhere is alive. We are the proof of life. That means I can't study, myself. I can't study, like, I can't have a true opinion on death because I'm a living being, right? I can have an opinion, but I can't have like a, experiential opinion. So everybody is getting an experience of this thing we call consciousness. Guys, I'll never forget it. I was trying to hold my laugh. I was in India 2016. We go to this ashram. They had these yoga sessions. The instructor comes and he's trying to speak English. And the guy was a very cool and blessed guy, blessed karma, But the way he pronounced consciousness, and the first time I ever heard him say it, was so intense that I was like, it got imprinted into my mind, the way he said it. Okay? And he was like, suddenly like, consciousness. It was like a sound. My ear was like, yo, I've never heard this sound with these other sounds before. It's like the way he was saying consciousness was like altering my consciousness as he was saying it, Consciousness. Yeah, there we go. Tess. That, I think it was. But anyways, bless him, What I'm trying to say is that treat yourself as an unknown technology and also the user of the technology. If somebody says, yo, what's the simplest view you have on soul, I'll be like, it's the user of life. If somebody says, what's the mind, it's the user interface of life. If they say, what's the body, it's the hardware of life. If they say, what is God, I'd be like, it's the programmer of life. If they say, what is Earth, I'd be like, it's the CD I paid for. Every human being has a King Arthur moment, okay? Where you will realize something so true in your experience that your beliefs won't matter. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't have beliefs, right? I mean, when I say human ideals, like, this is the whole discussion that we need the greatest philosophers in the world, like the Avengers, to assemble. And we need to, as a species, start discussing, okay, what does it mean to be human? Right? Like, let's say we have an android or machines in the future, like putting food in our mouths, walking for us, and the human being doesn't lose energy at all throughout the day. Imagine. And machines are living the human life for us. Could we still call ourselves human? Do you see? And we got to appreciate our humanism. Sometimes, if you're somebody who's bored on this planet, let me tell you, I have found the cure to any sort of boredom in this world: the future. And the future is something people are either too scared to look at, either they're conditioned to never look at, or they just don't know what to see. But I am telling you, there's a reason we have been given minds, and an incredible argument can be made that the mind is the future. It's God's creation being like, yo, it's as if, you know what I'm saying sometimes? I mean, I'm saying this with utter respect. If people hear these Mr. Within talks long enough, you'll see that I'm kind of like a scholar of language. Okay, I deep down, I feel like a designer when I'm approaching everything. you know? Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. To continue. To wrap this up, you see, I am thinking about how the species is going to go into the future. We've already have examples of it moving in the past. We've seen it in the present, how it is. And what the human species is behaving like in the present is like a lion waiting to roar. Every person has such a unique DNA that if they just care for this world, their purpose will find them. And if somebody wants to know, like, what's the difference between a shaman living a lifetime and, let's say, an average Joe, the shaman is in a symbiosis with the divine will. What that means is when you notice something as a human being beyond you, like let's say you close your eyes and your mind moves in a way you've never experienced before, at first you might think it's alarming, but if you realize that it's a way the world is communicating to you, even if you treat fear as communication, like the world is saying something to you, or your body is saying something. For example, my body's telling me to, to end these talks at 2000. But anyways, our eyes are open. We are here now. There's 8 billion of us. We have minds. We have precision, organization. We can pilot, we can strategize, we can network, we can realize everybody has their own inner realm, but we're all in the same outer realm. And the advanced civilization is one of the great honorable acts of the species. That means I thought the problem in this world that was that people were not being humble or too small. We were thinking too small. We have to think too big. Like children should be like for homework assignments, like, you know, trying to think of like how we build the future and all that. You know, that's how you know an advanced civilization is not here, when the educational system does not inspire, you know, humanity to problem solve for the future. You know how many people, you know, I felt like they've heard these talks and they're like, yo, who has the time to build an advanced civilization, man? I'm just tired when I get home, you know? And I'll be like, yeah, understandable, but what's the point of all of us working on a planet, right? To what aim are we working? Imagine you were working in a way where civilization was being advanced, instead of working in a way where you were just advanced for 100 years and then you were dismissed and it was as if nothing happened. Do you see? It's like levels to it. To truly live as a human being means to contribute to the human legacy. Or it was as that poet who said that it's like be ashamed to die until you have won some sort of victory for humanity. And let me tell you this, there is so many new things about this world that nobody has explored yet. Just think about it. The future generations will look at us and see all our blind spots. That means if we take a spontaneous turn, we might suddenly see our blind spot. This is why talent is in some sense a sort of faith in one's journey of vision. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. It's important to keep our human ideals in a world where technology may dehumanize us. You know, to be human is very important, right? And honor your fellow humanity. It's like if nobody else was here, we'd be the last person on earth. You know, it'd be scary. So the fact that everybody is here is an advantage. It's a strategic advantage. And sometimes when it comes to strategy, you look at the geometry of the moment, then you bring in your emotions and have an emotional interpretation and value. Anyways, guys, blessings. Share, subscribe, comment, like, and comment below what you thought of the episode, or what are some futuristic considerations. That's pretty general, but you know, write what you will. Thanks, guys. Rise, mankind, rise.